Welcome! Today I want to talk about one-shots and short campaigns and why you should play them. I'm going to preamble a bit here because I don't want this to get misconstrued. The whole point of this video is not to compare in a way to say long-form campaigns are worse, or that people who only play long-form campaigns are worse tabletop role players, or that you're bad for playing big sandbox narrative games or anything like that. This is purely just to talk about why some people who don't really necessarily play shorter campaigns or short one-shots should maybe give it a try. I did a poll on my channel while writing the script to see how much of my community plays in one-shots and shorter campaigns, and I wasn't surprised to find that most of you pretty regularly play one-shots. A lot of you are here from DCC or other games that have a lot of focus on both short and long-form games, so these numbers were basically what I was expecting. I'm only bringing that up because I think for my regulars, I don't know how much this video will be relevant for you compared to new people to the channel, because I don't think my community necessarily plays RPGs the same way a lot of the mainstream people do, and that's not me saying that we have a superior way of playing. I'm mostly just saying that we approach the hobby from a different perspective. I have personally dealt with real people and also people online acting like one-shots or short games are not really like true tabletop role-playing, or at the very least the tone I get is that they are like a lesser facsimile of what is true gaming, which is big campaigns and sandboxes and hex crawls, or, you know, big huge narrative epic arcs. I think it's easy to point at 5e's grand campaigns and the greater D&D mainstream community as the culprits for this kind of mentality, but I think this mentality stretches far back way before 5e. When I've had these interactions, I find that I've often heard that they can't find a game that's already ongoing that they can join, or they can't make a group that they want to run for, or things like that, to run their either big sandbox games or their big narrative games. And even though you absolutely can find those without that much work, it's just that, you know, you gotta know where to look and you just have to be really patient. I have found that when I have suggested to these people that, you know, maybe because of their busy schedules or, you know, other things they have in life like families or work or school or whatever, that maybe they should try, you know, maybe a short campaign. Like maybe take this adventure that's only like 5 sessions long, or maybe do a one-shot here and there. I have often found that the response I get is this grumbling disagreement. And listen, I get it, when you have an idea in your head of what you want to do, other suggestions might just not seem possible in your mind because you really just want this thing and you don't really want anything else. It's kind of like when you're really hungry and you go to your fridge and there's a bunch of food in there, but nothing's really jumping out at you, and you keep opening and closing it throughout the night, just trying to see like, hey, maybe this time if I open it up, I'll finally find something I like. And I feel like it's very similar to that, is the mentality of like, if I'm not getting this exact sandbox campaign, I don't really want it. But the thing is that if you are an adult with commitments or just not that much time, or for whatever reason you just can't make it to these games, or you just got really unlucky with whatever it might be, honestly, sometimes the only way you can still partake in the hobby is doing shorter campaigns or just doing one-shots here and there when you can fit them in. And if your response to that statement is if you don't get to be in a big campaign, you just don't want a game, I'm gonna be honest, you're gonna want to just turn the video off now because you're not gonna like what I have to say to you. And there's a lot more benefits to playing shorter games than just being a replacement for bigger campaigns. I still feel like right now I'm framing it as like a backup for real gaming, and that's not really the case. There's a lot of benefits to short games that you can learn a lot from and that you can have a lot of fun with that you might not be able to get in a longer form game. Firstly, there's a really great satisfaction to having an end to your story as a character, and also to reach the end of a big plot line that you may have been following for a while. It is really nice to actually, you know, get those things done and seeing where things go and being able to tie it all up with a nice bow. I am obviously a big believer, like I think most people should be, that the journey is more important than the destination in a tabletop RPG, but I do just think that it is really nice to be able to look back on a campaign that's fully finished and that you can talk about where your characters ended up, and I think it's a really cool thing to be able to have it from start to finish, getting to see where it went. For example, a year or two ago, I ran a Shadow the Demon Lord game that was 8 sessions since we were following the book's advice of doing more condensed stories, but we hit all the epic beats of great political intrigue, a cinematic siege fight, and slaying a demon queen amongst many other cool things. I know that example kind of stretches the idea of what a short campaign is with 8 sessions, but I do think in terms of being able to condense all those things that you might see over the course of 6 months to 2 years, being able to do all that in just 2 months, and it was paced really well and it felt organic. It didn't feel forced. It didn't feel like we were just doing it just to get it done quickly. It felt really, really good, and the mechanics worked really well for that. It was really nice getting such an insane campaign done so quickly. It felt like a really, really tight season of a TV show, and honestly, was some of the most emotionally draining gaming I've ever done. Like, in a good way, but by the time we were done, we were like, that was like watching a season of Game of Thrones, you know, before it got really, really bad, where it just was insane, it was super emotional, super dramatic, and we were able to do all that stuff in just 2 months. And it was extremely memorable because of that, because we had players from their beginning, and then we saw where they ended, which for about a third of the party meant they were dead. I also just wanted to use it as a bit of a compromise with people who do really, really, really want long-ass campaigns, that hey, maybe you don't want to do a 1 to 3 shot, but maybe you'll be down to just do a little campaign that only takes place for 2 months on a weekly basis, and you get all that stuff of character development, and your build grows, and all those other things that you get to do with your characters while not having to chain yourself to a 2-year-long commitment. I love sandbox campaigns and long narrative campaigns. I'm currently running Reach the Roach God, and I've been running that for a few months now, and I'm going to be running it for a few months more. There's a lot of satisfaction in running a long campaign that you build up. You have a lot of prep time to do, you see characters over a long period of time develop and grow, and there just is inherently a crap load of satisfaction in that. But I don't think it's a more legitimate way to play. It's not, you know, a more true, pure form of role-playing. It's just a different way. The same way a hex crawl isn't any better than a point crawl, and a point crawl isn't any better than a mega dungeon. They're just different ways to experience the hobby. I've also used one-shots as a great primer to get an idea of somebody new trying to join the group. You get a good idea of, do they jive with us, like, personality-wise? Do their play styles match? Do they like my GMing? Because they might also not like your group. There's a lot of things there that if you do it in just a 1-shot or a 2-shot or whatever, you can get a pretty good idea if this thing works, and if it doesn't, you're not in a huge commitment, and then you can also go separate ways after that. There's not really much awkwardness, because, you know, games fall apart all the time. So if you had a campaign plan at some point, but you just ended up not telling them about it because, you know, after the 2-shot, you kind of realize, oh, hey, like, you're a huge min-maxer, and, like, that's really cool and all, but I'm not really into that. I kind of want to run for people who are way more narrative-focused or whatever it might be. And the other thing, too, is that this can also break the ice if there's somebody you don't know that well, because once you start that campaign, if you already have some familiarity, you don't really need to get through those awkward phases of, you know, seeing how far they want to go with role-playing, see what they want to do. If you get a better idea before that, you can kick off your campaign in a way that works for them and you. The best campaign today that I've run so far, in my opinion, is this 9-month-long DCC Lightmar game I ran for my home group, which was unfortunately prematurely killed by 2020 in the dark times. But before I ran that campaign for everybody, I ran some one-shots for some prospective players in our area, and one of those players was a fantastic fit for our group, and is one of my favorite players to this day. The other thing as well, people not only new to your group, but new to the hobby, is that you might have a much harder time trying to get them into your crunchy, fancy system of choice to play a 1 or 2 year long campaign than if you try and, you know, come up with like maybe a rules light system that you might find like Trophy Dark or DCC or Old School Essentials or whatever, and just pitch a, hey, let's just do a single session, let's do, you know, 2 or 3 sessions, whatever. Then you get them hooked with a much easier system, and then if you really, really want to try and get them into the game that you really want to play, let's say 5-year Pathfinder, you might have a much better chance doing it that way than immediately springing, hey, I want to do this, here's all the rules, here's your build, it's going to take us all night to do this, and also, are you good to commit for a 6-month period? You might just have a little bit better luck if you just go, hey, let's just do a single session. You know, I got this adventure called Winter's Daughter, should be pretty fun, we'll just do characters up in like 2 seconds, and we'll just get playing. I've also found that one-shots are a great way to learn as both game master and player. Running an adventure and knowing there's a time limit is a great way to train your pacing skills. One of the best things you can learn as a GM is how to pace games properly. It helps you keep engaged players, and it also helps you keep the plot moving forward at a pace that you want to move at. And pacing isn't just important for one-shots, it's really important for long campaigns, because I don't know about you, but one of the most dreaded questions I hate hearing, especially in long campaigns, just when it happens, is when you get the players doing something, and then they kind of just go, wait, what are we doing here again? And that's usually because you had the quest giver give them the quest about 6 sessions ago, but 6 sessions ago was 4 months ago because your buddy Jerry doesn't make your game a priority because he has a really busy life, but he wants to play, and then you guys end up only playing like every other week because he keeps bailing, and the other people who, you know, well, if Jerry's not playing, I don't really want to play, and we don't really do one-shots as a group because we have this idea that we only do long-term campaigns of the campaign we're doing, so we don't really get games in, and, you know, over time, people just kind of forget or lose track of what you're actually doing. As you can tell, I'm clearly not holding on to anything. And when you play more one-shots, you get to try out different styles and different systems, and you can learn a lot of different things from those games that you can then take into other games. I started playing Trophy Dark in the middle of 2023, and it became probably one of my favorite games of recent times. I absolutely love it. It is a fantastic one-shot system, and one of the best things it taught me is how to ask players questions. The way Trophy Dark tries to get you to ask questions of players is a great way to sort of give them a little bit of a breadcrumb of inspiration or a place to springboard off of, instead of catching them with like deer in the headlights with just a really broad question out of nowhere, or like with not really much to jump off of. As an example of what I mean, instead of hitting players with "tell me about your hometown," ask them something like, how do the smells of the market square remind you of home? Or what aspects of this demon idol make you uneasy? Or what is it about this orc chief that reminds you that you'll never repair your relationship with your father, Jerry? I have found these leading or more structured questions have a bit more of that yes and improv factor than just a blank question that doesn't really have much to grasp onto. And some players are pretty good with that. They're pretty good at just coming up with anything, or they already have an idea of who they are and what they want to do with their character. But a lot of players don't, especially when all your energy and focus has gone into making a really good build, or that you just aren't used to that kind of style of play. So just coming up with stuff on the fly from a pretty broad question might not be your strength. I have found these questions give the players a little bit of a string that they can grab and pull on, instead of just a big blank wall that they don't really have much to work with. Also, speaking of Trophy Dark, I did a Trophy Dark actual play not too long ago, and I think that one deserves a lot more love. I think personally, it's one of the best actual plays on the channel. Once it gets going, it really gets going, and I think a lot of you would enjoy it. So check it out on my channel, or go to my actual play podcast and check it out there. And just like those structured questions, I find the more systems and different styles of play I do, the more I learn and the more things I take from other systems and start kind of making this Frankenstein monster playstyle when it comes to all my different games I play. And it's a lot easier to play those different systems when the commitment is just one night. Not to mention, those might give opportunities to players to try out characters or archetypes or builds or different ideas they might not otherwise gravitate towards, but when they don't have to worry about it being such a long commitment that they're going to be stuck with that character that they might not like. Somebody usually plays a fighter type who is trying out a cleric, trying out a support, seeing if they like it, because who knows? You might do that and realize, oh my god, this is such a fun style of play. I had no idea it was this fun, or that like this game provides this sort of support class or fighting class in a way that is lacking in other systems, and I'm learning I don't dislike that archetype. I dislike how that system does that archetype. And I think that's a great way for a lot of players to learn about themselves and what they like to play. I'm just going to be brutally honest right now. I don't think the worst players are 5e players like a lot of people in our neck of the woods would make you think. The worst players are people who refuse to try new games, new playstyles, or refuse to even see why a design choice might be made just on the basis that it's different than what they're used to. If you have the time and the money, I really think it's worth your while as a hobbyist to try out different things, really get a good idea of things that are out there in our hobby. If you play with different people and different games, you can really learn what you like and what you don't like. And trust me, learning what you don't like is really, really helpful before you commit to a big game, and then you realize after character creation, holy shit, I really don't like this. And I would have known I don't like this if I had just played more games that were like this one. But I thought, oh, well, my buddy's finally wanting to GM and I don't want to GM anymore. I'm a forever GM or whatever. I hate that term. But a lot of people, feel that way. And then their other friend decides to do it and they go, oh, shit. If I had known that this is what it was, if I had known that Shadowrun was hell, and I had tried it once in a little, pick-up 3-shot that I had seen online, I would have known to tell my buddy to stay far away from it. Personally, every time I try something new, I find I'm always learning and improving as a hobbyist, and I feel like the moment you stop wanting to learn and try new things is the moment you stagnate in your skills. On the player side, I think there's a lot of similar things they can learn in terms of new playstyles and things they might enjoy and new experiences and all that, but I think the biggest thing a lot of players could stand to learn is to finally understand the benefit of pre-generated characters. One of my biggest pet peeves in this hobby is this weird as fuck aversion that a lot of players have to pre-generated characters, and I know where it comes from, but it doesn't make it any less stupid. And you don't need to do pre-gens for all one-shots. Some one-shots really benefit from it, but some games like Cairn, you can make your character in less than a minute, and you don't really need a pre-gen for that when you can just do it yourself real quick. But they can be absolutely amazing, and they are no less your character just because you didn't have a hand in making every aspect of it from minute 1. I know this topic is going to get a lot of pushback, because this is a very strongly debated topic amongst a lot of people, but I want to tell you a little story that really made me realize just how good pre-gens can be. A few years ago, when I got into Call of Cthulhu while my group was still playing 5e, I kind of branched off while they kept doing that, and I got with some other locals and started playing COC with them. They were all pretty new players. They were really great guys, and they were pretty fun role players, but overall, a lot of their characters kind of lacked in the depth department. That was, of course, until I ran Reign of Terror for them and gave them the pregens that were made for that adventure. That short 3-session game where they played pregens was the best role-playing I had seen them do by a mile. It was not even close. Their last characters were all kind of stiff and, didn't really have all much going on. They were kind of just them plus, a lot of that was very much just not really, I don't want to say not interesting, because I think that's going too far in the other direction. They were just kind of mid, they were average. They were okay, they weren't terrible, but they weren't gonna win any awards. But the way these three played these soldiers, they took the characteristics, the flaws, the bonds between them, the way they took that and really elevated it. I was so blown away. They did such a good job that I've run a lot of COC since then, and that is still one of the best little mini COC campaigns I've run. And yet, when we finished playing it and they talked about how much fun they had, we went over the different crazy things that had happened and everything else, they all said, that was really fun, but next time I'd like to make my own character. And that really baffled me, because they had easily done the best job they had done. They had fully made these characters their own, but for some reason, that need to have every little bit of say over the characters, from their names, their stats, to everything, even for a short little game, was still there. And I did not understand it at all, because they had done so much better. We had way more fun than we had in any of their games. It was such like an S-tier game compared to everything else we had done. I did not understand why they still really were against pregens. And I realized for Call of Cthulhu, pre-made investigators are a much bigger part of that community, because a lot of times you have all these characters with different skills, and you kind of want characters that work for the mystery. You want characters that have electrical repair or drive auto or whatever things that might be. If you're running an adventure that's on a big boat, maybe having somebody who has, marine biology or natural world or mechanical repair would be pretty good to have. So a lot of times they're just kind of made there so that you can make them your own, but they have sort of the skills you might need and some flaws that might be attached to the mystery. And so that's a much more accepted thing in the COC community that you do pregens, because it's just easier. And I think that mentality against it is a lot of bleed over from D&D 5e, 3.5, Pathfinder, whatever, a lot of the big build games. And I understand why you want those to be your own. To be clear, because I know a lot of people are probably already typing comments that they are really mad at me for saying this, or that they completely disagree. But to be clear, I understand why you want that to be your own. Because with those games, you are making a build, you are making like a whole character that isn't just like a character and a person that you kind of realize the personality parts. You also have to figure out, how do they fight? What abilities do they have? How do they deal with puzzles, everything else? So I totally get why you want to make that your own, because there's so many aspects that you'd like your own hand in, which I get. And especially, to be clear, I think for a longer campaign, I think pregens are not really the way to go for the most part, except for very specific circumstances, or if the group just likes it and they're happy with that. I get it even for COC, if people are doing, like, say, Horror on the Orient Express, that they might want to make their own character, because they're like, listen, we're going to be playing this character for like the next year. I mean, they're probably going to die before that in Horror, but same thing in 5e Pathfinders, that I'm going to be playing this character for a long time. We have time to make it ourselves. We can just make a session 0. So to be clear, I totally get making your own character in those long form games, but I do think for shorter games, you creating your own character, regardless of how it ties into the story or with the time limit in mind, is not an inherently superior choice just because you created it. Taking a pre-generated character and making it your own is every bit as legitimate, if not superior in some cases. At the end of the day, all I'm saying is that playing a pre-gen is not breaking some invisible rule, it's not taking a shortcut or making you a worse role player. The same way running an RPG module does not make you a worse GM than if you just run everything from scratch. I've also found that long campaigns can have burnout on both the GM side and the player side, and doing little one-shots to shake things up can be a really, really fun way to reinvigorate your players, get them re-engaged, and you can have these one-shots take place in the same world, and maybe these will be backups for later if somebody dies, or, maybe furthers a part of the story, or you can do a completely different world or system just to get, a real shake of things so that people can, get back to the game and be happy to be playing again now that they got, a little bit of a different taste of something else. At least for me, it's been really nice after doing the same thing for a while to just try out something different and sort of see what else might be out there. I think that covers pretty much everything I wanted to cover in this video for why people should play one-shots and shorter campaigns. I do know that a lot of this probably very much comes off like I'm saying if you don't play one-shots or if you don't play shorter arc games, then you are a worse player, which I know I said at the beginning that's not what I'm saying, but I do know the way this comes off is very combative or very much like I'm lecturing or chastising you, but I don't believe that. I think if you have tried one-shots or if you have tried shorter campaigns and you don't like them, you and I got no problems. I don't think there's anything wrong with you trying stuff out and then not liking it and being like, no, man, for me, I want to do Curse of Strahd. I want to do Horror on the Orient Express. I want to do big, long campaigns with one character or whatever, and I want to just do that one thing, and I don't really care about trying out different systems or anything else, and I've already done that, and it just isn't for me. I respect the hell out of that. I don't respect people who go, ew, I don't like that. It's different. I'm not going to try it at all. No, I don't really like new experiences. I don't really want to see what else is out there. I have this one thing and I'm gonna refuse to do anything else. I don't think you're picky if you eat food and realize you don't like it. I think you're picky if you look over at a dish and immediately go, ew, and don't even try it. So if you have tried stuff out and you just don't like it, don't take this video as a personal attack. It's not meant to be. I think if you're doing what you like to do, you go right ahead. And honestly, even if you don't like trying stuff and you just want to do what you want to do because you only have a limited amount of time and, you know, not everybody has time to try out new things all the time. Sometimes they just want to, you know, after a week of work, just play the same beer and pretzels game they've been playing for the last 5 years with their friends. And if that's the case, why'd you watch this far into the video? So my camera battery keeps dying on me, so I'm gonna just try and wrap this up now. What parts of one-shots do you love that I missed? What did I say that made you want to eat your own dice in anger? Let me know in the comments. But anyway, thank you so much, my patrons. I want to thank you so much for everything you do. It helps me keep putting money back into the channel, and I super appreciate you guys. And to everybody else, I hope you found this video helpful. I hope you found it, you know, maybe it'll change your mind somewhat. Maybe you'll see a new aspect. Maybe it'll give you a chance to, you know, maybe just try something. Even if you don't like it, even if you don't like one-shots, short games, you still just want to stick to long campaigns, I don't blame you at all. They're extremely fun. But if you do end up trying something because of this video, please let me know what it was. I'm always so excited to hear what people are doing in the hobby. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a good one, and stay safe out there.